Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're going to debate if Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, also known as Daniel Bryan, is the greatest of all time, and I'm going to give you the argument for why he might just be. Now first off, I'm going to mention some achievements. This isn't every achievement he's ever had, there is way more than this, but these are the ones that stand out. He's been an AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He's been an IWGP Junior Tag Team Champion with Curryman. He's been a GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion, which if you're not familiar with GHC, that is Pro Wrestling Noah's championship. He's been the Ring of Honor Pure Heavyweight Champion, the Ring of Honor World Champion, a Ring of Honor Hall of Famer in 2022. He's been the WWE Champion 4 times. He's been the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the Intercontinental Champion, the United States Champion, the WWE Tag Team Champion with Kane, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions with Rowan, who is a very underrated wrestler. You guys need to give Rowan more respect than he gets. He's won the SmackDown Money in the Bank in 2011. He's a Wrestling Observer Hall of Famer in 2016. And those are just some of his achievements. There are so many more, and as you can see, that's a ton already. The things I want to talk about are basically the 3 big areas of his career: Ring of Honor, WWE, AEW. Now, as far as Ring of Honor, he's considered one of the founding fathers of Ring of Honor. He was in the main event of the Era of Honor Begins, their first show, him versus Christopher Daniels versus Low-Ki. He has some of the most awesome and amazing feuds, some of the feuds that put Ring of Honor on the map, whether it be him and Homicide, him and Nigel McGuinness, him and Samoa Joe, him and CM Punk. The early stages of Ring of Honor, I can't stress how much they were built on the backs of guys like Homicide, Punk, Joe, Danielson. All of these guys were so important to bringing that company into prominence. And it's one of those things that's kind of overlooked now, especially with Ring of Honor basically being a stepchild of AEW at this point. But they really laid the groundwork for professional wrestling over these last 2 decades. I mean, it was just amazing stuff. If you were around and you were watching it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, from Ring of Honor, if he would just end it there, he would have had a good argument to being the greatest Ring of Honor wrestler of all time. He's definitely on their Mount Rushmore. But then he goes to WWE. He switches his name to Daniel Bryan, which is basically his name backwards. And again, we're just going to go through highlights here. He has some of the best comedy work that anybody's ever had in WWE, in his team with Kane as Team Hell No. I think their therapy skits are some of the best comedy WWE's ever done. His Yes movement is absolutely some of the peak WWE storytelling, and WWE didn't even want to tell that story. I could tell you, I was there at WrestleMania 28 when he lost to Sheamus in, I think it's 18 seconds. From the time I got to WrestleMania, which was 11 o'clock in the morning, because we got there early because we wanted to look at all the things going on around it, people were chanting for Daniel Bryan the moment I got to the park. From the time he lost, the next 2 matches, which I forget what they were, but they were good matches. The next 2 matches on the card, it doesn't show up on the network now because I went back and watched it, and I don't even think it showed up on the DVD. But the crowd chanted Daniel Bryan for the next 2 matches after his match at WrestleMania. That Yes movement leads us into WrestleMania 30, which gives us one of the feel-good moments in all of the history of wrestling. Daniel Bryan overcoming the odds that are put on him by the Authority with the McMahons and Triple H. After that, there's a little bit of a lull. Injuries start mounting up. As of 2016, he has his retirement, which gives us one of the most emotional moments in WWE history, his on-air retirement. He fights, he struggles, he gets cleared, he comes back, and in his comeback, I think the best character work that he's ever done was done in his comeback when he became the Planet's champion. That was so good. I mentioned it earlier how Rowan is so underrated, and that's one of the reasons why he's so underrated. His time in the Wyatt family as well. I mean, he's a great addition, and he's a great wrestler on his own. Daniel Bryan did such great work here because he made someone that was so beloved, like a Ricky Steamboat or a Tito Santana, into the biggest heel in the company. Now, from there, we're going to touch on his AEW work. AEW is probably the shortest tenure of the 3. Obviously, he's had a long career going back 25 years now. and AEW's only been the past couple. But in there, the things that stuck out the most to me is it felt like he came to AEW so he could elevate the next generation. Whether that be in his amazing Iron Man match with MJF, which I would put in the top 5 or so matches in AEW history at this point, his match with Will Ospreay, him joining forces with Jon Moxley and becoming the Blackpool Combat Club and elevating Wheeler Yuta to a point, all the way to his last match, which at the time I'm recording this just happened yesterday. You're probably going to see this a couple days later than that. He went out losing to probably a guy that's a really good friend of his, Jon Moxley, in a way that made Jon Moxley, who I already consider the ace of AEW, the big bad of AEW, in the way that The Undertaker was the ace of WWE for a lot of years, he made him look even more dangerous. He made Wheeler Yuta look better by Yuta turning on him. It was gut-wrenching watching him lose because you're so invested in Bryan Danielson. And I know they're interchangeable for most fans. Most fans will say them both because of him. He's a guy that probably should have never made it to the top of the ladder. He was too small. He was too injury prone. He was a guy that was considered not to be a great talker. And he goes down as one of the greatest wrestlers of this generation, if not all time. He's so good in the ring that the Wrestling Observer, which a lot of people consider the preeminent source for wrestling media, their award for Best Technical Wrestler is called the Bryan Danielson Award. That's how good he is. I could break down these 25 years and spend 25 hours talking about every little minute portion, but think of what all we've covered. We've covered Pro Wrestling Noah, New Japan, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, and he's made a mark everywhere. Whether it be comedy in tag teams with Curryman or Kane, whether it be serious, gut-wrenching performances, whether it be his 2016 retirement or this recent run, whether it be technical masterpieces going all the way back to his early career against guys like Daniels and Low-Key in the first Ring of Honor show, all the way to his last show against Jon Moxley, which you may or may not think it's a great match, but it's such a great story that's being told. To me, Bryan Danielson is one of the great storytellers in the history of wrestling. Everything he does, from the way he talks to the way he moves, to his connection with you, to his connection with me, makes him that guy. I mean, I would put him up there with the Bret Harts, the Shawn Michaels, the Ric Flairs, the Terry Funks. Whoever you have at the top of your list as the greatest wrestlers of all time, I would throw Bryan Danielson right in there in the mix. And honestly, I think he has an argument of being the top guy. I won't say he is here. I'll leave that up to you to decide if he's your greatest or not. And then the last final thing, the one thing that I think he would be proudest of and his happiest achievement is his family. Him and Brie Bella and their 2 children, they look so happy. And the ultimate family man retiring for his children, Daniel Bryan makes a case to be one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. Let me know what you think. Do you think he's the greatest of all time? Do you think he's not? If not, who do you think is? Let me know down here in the comments. While you're there, smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and you've been watching Heel Heat.